Marina Russo had always loved the idea of living in a vintage Chicago brownstone, the kind with worn brick, creaky stairs, and echoes of the city's history in every hallway. So, when she found a one-bedroom unit in a 1920s building near Logan Square, she signed the lease without a second thought. The rent was surprisingly low for the area. The landlord, a soft-spoken older woman named Mrs. Leland, merely shrugged and said, "It's old and a bit quirky, but it has its charm." Marina moved in on a brisk November afternoon. She admired the tall windows that let in watery sunlight and the hardwood floors that squeaked with each step. Sure, the layout was unusual, long, narrow halls, corners that didn't quite meet at right angles, but she found it endearing. She imagined all the previous tenants who'd walked those corridors, the silent stories woven into the building's bones. A few days after settling in, she noticed something odd at the far end of her hallway. The corridor led from the living room to her bedroom, culminating in a blank wall near the utility closet. But as she tidied up one morning, she realized there was a door there. She could swear it hadn't been there the day before. The paint was the same faded white as the rest of the trim, but the doorknob was ancient brass, tarnished black at the edges. Perplexed, she approached it. The door was locked. She tried the knob, but it didn't budge. She pressed her ear to the wood, hearing nothing. The door looked ordinary, though the frame seemed slightly warped, as if forcibly wedged into place. She shook her head, chalking it up to not paying attention earlier. Perhaps it was a storage access door she simply overlooked. She made a mental note to ask Mrs. Leland about it. Yet a nagging feeling lingered. The building's blueprint said her hallway ended with the utility closet. No mention of any extra door. That evening, Marina left a voicemail for Mrs. Leland, casually inquiring about the door at the end of the hall and whether it led to another storage area or if it was sealed shut. Hours later, she still hadn't heard back. Meanwhile, the locked door gnawed at her curiosity. She tried to ignore it, immersing herself in reading a new book. But in the quiet of the night, that door's presence tugged at her mind. Around midnight, she stepped into the corridor to fetch something from her bedroom. The overhead light was dim. She froze mid-step, heart thudding. The door at the corridor's end looked closer. It was maybe an inch or two forward from where she recalled it being. She actually measured the distance from the last floorboard to the door's threshold. The measurement read half a foot less than earlier that day. She rubbed her eyes. Am I imagining things? She reasoned the old building might have shifting floorboards or illusions from the lighting. Telling herself it was nonsense, she flicked the hallway light off and returned to bed. But her sleep was restless, haunted by half-formed dreams of the door slowly inching closer, a scraping noise echoing in the dark. The next morning, she rechecked the distance. The door seemed to be exactly where it had always been. She concluded she must have measured incorrectly. Still, a faint sense of unease clung to her. Work kept her busy for most of the day, and she returned home late. As she stepped into the hallway that evening, the overhead fixture flickered. The door at the end drew her gaze like a magnet. It stood silent, locked, unremarkable, except now she was certain it wasn't flush with the wall. A half-inch gap had formed at the top, like the doorframe had shifted. Marina set down her purse and stared. She tapped the doorknob again, but it refused to turn. She even tried leaning into the wood to see if it would budge. Nothing. That night, she woke to an odd sound, a faint scraping or dragging, as if furniture was being moved. She slipped out of bed, heart racing, and crept down the hall. The noise seemed to emanate from behind the door. She pressed her ear to it, breath held. Nothing, just silence. She almost hoped the door would open so she could end the suspense, but it remained locked, unwavering. She texted Mrs. Leland in the morning, a bit more urgently. "There's a strange locked door at the end of my hallway. Did I just miss it, or is it new? Also, hearing noises. Could there be a pipe or something behind it?" She received no response that day. As the days passed, the door's position changed incrementally. She began marking the floor with a strip of painter's tape each night to measure. Each morning, it was an inch or two closer to her bedroom door. She had proof now, tangible evidence that the door was moving. The change was too precise to be a trick of the eye. Anxiety gnawed at her. Was she the victim of some elaborate prank? She tried wedging a chair in front of the door at night, but the next morning, the door had advanced around the chair, pushing it aside. No sign of forced movement, no scuff marks. The door and its frame seemed to glide closer, defying logic. She also noticed the door itself looked older each day. Wood grain more weathered, paint peeling in spots that she swore were pristine before, like it was aging by the hour. The doorknob's tarnish spread, a patina of centuries forming overnight. And at times, she thought she heard muffled voices beyond it, too faint to decipher. Desperate for answers, Marina roamed the building, speaking to neighbors. Most were new tenants or kept to themselves. A retired gentleman on the top floor recalled a rumor that part of the building's original layout was walled off decades ago, but he had no details. Another tenant claimed sometimes hearing footsteps in the attic at odd hours. No one else had a mysterious door appear in their hallway, though. She pored over old city records, hoping to find the building's original floor plan. She found a reference in a 1940s newspaper snippet about a grim tragedy that occurred there, but the details were vague. Something about a missing child, unsolved. The snippet was incomplete, the rest presumably lost to time. Her heart sank. Could that event be linked to the haunting door? She tried calling Mrs. Leland repeatedly. No answer. It was as if the landlord had vanished. Tension mounted. Could I break the door down, she wondered? She hammered at the wood with a hammer once, but the door seemed impossibly solid, refusing even the slightest dent. One night, about a week into this nightmare, she jolted awake around 3 a.m. to a gentle, insistent knocking. At first, she thought someone rapped on her front door, but as the haze of sleep cleared, she realized it came from inside, from the hall, from that locked door. The knock was strangely soft, yet it reverberated like a heartbeat in her chest. She sprang up, adrenaline surging, tiptoeing into the hallway. The door had crept significantly closer, maybe 2 feet from her bedroom threshold now. The overhead light flickered, casting the door's shadow across the floor. The knocking paused. She stared, heart pounding. Then the knocks resumed, each a muted thump, thump, thump. She mustered a trembling, hello? Her voice echoed in the silent hall. The knocking ceased. No response from behind the door, only an oppressive hush. For a moment she contemplated turning the knob, but it remained locked, even though she felt something on the other side. She retreated, heart in her throat, and locked herself in her bedroom until morning. Sleep evaded her, and she found herself staring at the faint light beneath her door, fearful of hearing that knock again. The next morning, the door was even closer, nearly flush with her bedroom door. The single light bulb overhead buzzed in protest. If it moves any closer, I won't be able to leave my bedroom. She felt trapped, a helpless observer to this surreal phenomenon. She considered fleeing the apartment entirely, but where would she go? She had a lease, her possessions, and something in her gut told her she couldn't outrun this door, like it was anchored to her presence. She tried contacting a local contractor friend, Manny, asking if he'd seen hidden compartments or shifting walls in old buildings. Manny was baffled by her description. She invited him over to see for himself. That afternoon, Manny arrived, took measurements, tested the door. He left pale-faced, muttering that it defied all structural logic. The hallway behind the door apparently didn't exist, according to the blueprint. That night, Manny pledged to stay in the apartment, sleeping on the couch, in hopes of witnessing the door's movement. They set up a camera in the hallway, aimed directly at the door, a lamp shining on it. The door was about a foot from her bedroom now, leaving a narrow gap to squeeze past. The tension crackled in the air. Sometime around 2 a.m., Manny and Marina dozed off. The camera whirred quietly, filming the corridor. At 3:13 a.m., the lamp flickered out. The door shifted in the darkness. The camera caught only the faint outlines, like the entire hallway warped. Shadows rippled across the walls, and the door glided an inch forward, silent as a drifting ghost. Then came the knocking. The camera audio recorded it, a steady, muffled tap, tap, tap. Manny jerked awake, but by the time he reached the camera, the door was still. The lamp flickered back on, revealing no sign of movement. Manny cursed. They played back the footage in disbelief, seeing the door physically shift with no visible force. The film also caught a faint moan or whisper after the knocking, like a voice saying, "Soon." Manny's face turned ashen. After that, Manny refused to stay another night. He left, apologizing. Marina understood his fear. She was terrified herself, yet she had nowhere else to go. The next night, exhausted and alone, Marina felt the building's hush suffocate her. She tried not to fall asleep, but weariness overcame her. Sometime in the early hours, she jerked awake to intense knocking, more urgent than before. She leapt from bed. The door was only inches from her own, nearly touching her bedroom door. If it advanced any further, she'd be trapped. Knock, knock, knock. Soft, insistent. She pressed her ear to her bedroom door, nearly panicking. Then, with a metallic click, the locked door's handle turned. She heard the slow creak of hinges. She realized that the door had opened. Something or someone was entering the hallway from beyond. A wave of dread swept her. She expected footsteps, but only silence. Summoning courage, she cracked her bedroom door open. The corridor lights flickered wildly. The mysterious door now stood ajar, revealing blackness beyond. In the gloom, she saw a staircase leading downward, wooden steps illuminated by a faint, sickly glow. The doorway frame itself had twisted to accommodate the steps, as if the corridor ended in an impossible extension. Her heart hammered. This new space didn't exist in any rational sense. Yet there it was, a descending staircase. And from the darkness below, a voice whispered, "I've been waiting for you." It was quiet, almost gentle, but brimming with ancient longing. Terror threatened to paralyze her, but the voice carried an odd pull, like a lure. She approached the threshold, peering down the steps. She saw no figure, just flickering shadows. The door behind her stood open, no longer locked. The building's stale air gave way to a damp chill that smelled of earth, like a cellar long sealed. She turned to run, but realized the hallway behind her was gone. The entire corridor had vanished, her apartment door replaced by endless blackness. The only path was forward, down the steps. The building had warped around her. Her mind screamed it was impossible, but her eyes confirmed it. Swallowing a wave of panic, she placed one foot on the top step. The wood groaned. The voice whispered again, "Come closer." She descended, each step precarious. The flickering glow grew stronger. She expected to see a basement or some catacomb. Instead, the staircase opened onto a large chamber, stone walls slick with moisture. The architecture felt older than Chicago itself, like catacombs from a forgotten era. In the chamber's center burned a solitary lamp or lantern, casting dancing shadows. The walls bore strange markings, symbols reminiscent of runes or sigils. The air hummed with a presence. She stepped forward, heart drumming so loud it hurt. A shape stood at the far end, half shrouded in darkness. Tall, gaunt, wearing something tattered that might be a robe or coat. Its face was turned away. She stifled a gasp. The shape moved slightly, as if inhaling her presence. Slowly, it turned, revealing features blurred in the dimness, except for two dark eyes. A wide smile stretched across its face, unnaturally wide, showing too many teeth. Marina froze. The figure's voice rumbled softly. "You've come a long way to find me." The accent was indescribable, each syllable resonating with an otherworldly hush. She forced words out. What are you?" Her voice trembled. The figure stepped closer, each footfall echoing. "I am the door's keeper," it murmured. "All this time you've heard me calling. I'm so glad you followed." Her mind reeled, the corridor, the shifting door. It was all to lead her here. She demanded, "Why? Why me? I don't even know what you want." It tilted its head, grin unwavering. "This place is older than your city. The door needed a soul, an occupant who would open it. I have been locked away, waiting for someone to help me cross over." She realized with a jolt the door had been using her fear and curiosity to break its seal. She had undone the lock by acknowledging it, measuring it, letting it inch closer. She glanced around, searching for an escape. The staircase behind her was gone, only cold stone walls. She was trapped in this subterranean chamber with the thing. Her breath came in ragged gasps, tears forming. Summoning every ounce of courage, she backed away, blurting, "Stay back!" She fumbled in her pocket for anything, her phone, a flashlight, a possible weapon. She found only her phone, battery nearly dead. The figure advanced, an eerie fluidity in its movements. "Don't be afraid," it crooned. "Your world above is so lonely. Here, you can rest." A swirl of despair weighed on her. She refused to yield. She shouted, "No!" The voice reverberated off the chamber walls, momentarily stalling the figure. She realized the door might respond to her will, that the building changed around her. Perhaps there was a chance to reclaim the corridor or conjure an exit if she broke the figure's hold. She closed her eyes, recalling Manny's attempt to break the door, the fact it was unstoppable. But maybe the entity's power relied on her fear and acceptance. She inhaled, focusing on her longing for her apartment hallway, her normal life. She pictured the corridor, the overhead light. The figure snarled softly, sensing her resolve. She opened her eyes to see cracks forming along the stone walls, a faint glow seeping through. The grin on the entity's face twitched. "No," it hissed. "You belong to me now. The door is open." The chamber trembled. The lamplight flickered violently. She stumbled, refusing to let panic consume her. "I will not stay. This is my home," she chanted in her mind, imagining her real hallway, her bedroom. She tried stepping backward, half expecting to meet solid stone. Instead, she felt a shift in the air. A wind rushed through the chamber, swirling dust and debris. The figure lunged, arms extending, the grin distorting. She screamed, stumbling. In that instant, the stone walls cracked further, revealing glimpses of the hallway behind them. She glimpsed the tarnished door in her apartment corridor, now partially visible through a rift. The entity snarled with frustration. It lunged again, but a gust of unseen force tossed it aside. She seized the moment, sprinting toward the emerging doorway. The figure howled, a guttural wail that reverberated and reached out with elongated fingers. She could feel the cold brush her shoulder. Her hand grabbed at the half-formed doorknob, twisting it. The door gave way, flooding the chamber with bright overhead light from her apartment corridor. With all her strength, she hurled herself through that threshold. The entity's shriek echoed behind her. She stumbled face first onto her hallway floor, heart pounding. The overhead light flickered once, then stabilized. Glancing back, she saw only the normal hallway wall. No door, no handle. The corridor was its usual length, the tape marks and scuffs from before gone. She pressed a hand to the wall where the door once stood. Solid plaster. The mysterious door had vanished. Marina lay there, trembling, tears streaming. She was back. The monstrous presence was gone, at least for now. She rose unsteadily, checking the time. 5:42 a.m. Dawn approached, the faint glow at her windows. She felt as if she'd battled an ancient force all night. In the days that followed, the hallway remained normal. No locked door, no creeping distance. She scoured the wall daily, touching the paint, half expecting it to flicker into a door again. But it never did. She told Manny a condensed version, enough to explain that the door had disappeared. He was incredulous, but relieved she was safe. Mrs. Leland finally called back, apologizing for her absence. She claimed phone trouble. When asked about a hidden door, she insisted no knowledge of any. The building had been in her family for decades, but there was no record of a secret passage. She assured Marina it must be a misunderstanding. Marina just nodded, not wanting to relive the truth. At night, she still woke with images of that figure's grin etched in her mind. She kept a lamp on, the hallway well lit. Yet the corridor remained benign. Slowly, she found a fragile normalcy. She debated moving out, but finances pinned her down. She told herself it was over. Occasionally, though, in the hush before dawn, she imagined hearing a soft knock from the far wall. She'd freeze, ears straining. No repeated sound followed. She dismissed it as paranoia. The nightmares lessened in frequency, though never fully vanished. She couldn't forget the malicious intelligence behind that door. She read about other accounts of impossible doorways or anomalies in old buildings, but found nothing definitive. Sometimes she wondered if the entity had inhabited the building for decades, waiting for a new tenant susceptible to its call. She shuddered at the memory of that final whispered phrase, "I've been waiting for you." One bright morning, she made the decision to leave. She found a cheaper sublet across town. She parted with a short notice to Mrs. Leland, citing urgent personal reasons. The landlord seemed disappointed, but offered no argument. Packing her belongings felt cathartic. Each box sealed away fragments of a chilling experience. On her final day, as she carried out the last box, she paused in the hall where the door once was. The wall looked perfectly ordinary, the paint matching the rest. She placed a palm on it, half expecting to feel a pulse or a cold spot. It was just drywall, slightly warm from midday heat. She exhaled, letting the tension go. Then, carrying her things, she stepped out the front door, or never looking back. Marina found a new place, a simpler apartment with no labyrinthine corridors. She struggled with insomnia, always expecting midnight knocks. But over time, life resumed a semblance of normal. She told close friends an edited version of her ordeal, leaving out the supernatural details. They chalked it up to stress or a faulty memory. Months later, rumor had it a new tenant moved into her old unit. She overheard from Manny that the newcomer mentioned hearing strange late-night taps down the hallway. The mention made her heart pound. She didn't pry further. She knew better than to confront that presence again. In the hidden depths of that Chicago brownstone, some dark intelligence might still lurk, waiting for the door to be noticed again. It thrived on curiosity, inching closer each night. So, if you ever find an unfamiliar locked door at the end of your own hallway, especially in an old creaking building, be warned. If it moves closer, if you hear soft knocking in the dead of night, do not open it. Because beyond that threshold, something ancient and hungry waits at the bottom of the stairs, whispering, "I."